The Big Impact on the Radio 2 Art Show.
Hi, I'm Donna from Norwich, and I've chosen John Keats' Ode to a Nightingale, as this poem has had a big impact on me because it inspired me to appreciate, connect, write poetry, and to finally become a published modern-day New World poet. The premise of John Keats' poem, Ode to a Nightingale, I believe is a very personal, passionate, and imaginative poem as he describes his journey into the state of negative human capability, emotions, it destined to all humankind, that of mortality, whereas he imagines the nightingale, songbird, is capable of living through its song, therefore becoming immortalized, which he believes is a fate that humans cannot expect, but describes that one has to accept one's mortality as this is a part of life and the human condition. My heart aches and a drowsy numbness pains. I sense as though of hemlock I had drunk or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. 1 minute passed and leaf wards had sunk. 'Tis not through envy, my happy lot, but being too happy in thy happiness, that thou, light-winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot of beech and green and shadows numberless, singers of summer in full-throated ease. Oh, for a draught of vintage that has been called a long age in the deep-delved earth, tasting of flora and the country green. I was greatly influenced, affected, and inspired by the late great poet John Keats, since that fortuitous and perhaps destined day in the summer of 1984, when my English uncle Douglas invited me, being a very impressionable young girl at that time, to holiday in England, as I'd never been before, as I was born and raised in Harare, Zimbabwe. While sightseeing in London with my uncle, he took me to visit Keats' house in Hampstead, and as I sat under the infamous plum tree where Keats had sat and been inspired by the Nightingale song to write his poem, Ode to Nightingale, I suddenly felt connected, enlightened, and inspired to become creative and write poetry and hopefully to become a poet one day. Keats' great poetry work impacted and changed my life direction forever as I connected with his poems that he shared, and I have him to thank for inspiring me to write poetry and to finally publish my very first poetry book only last year. John Keats' poetry work has indeed become immortalized, just like the Nightingale song. And I would like to imagine that John Keats' soul became one with the Nightingale song, together immortalized, to live forever on and on.
Our thanks to Donna from Norwich for explaining how John Keats' poem Ode to a Nightingale has had a big impact on her. If you'd like to be featured on the Radio 2 Art Show, you can let us know which film or poem or book or painting has made a big impact on you by visiting my show page, bbc.co.uk/Radio 2.
He's one of Britain's and indeed the world's greatest musicians.
I met John and